My aviaries were in a U shape, and I lost a cock barra band because I hadn't got a safety porch, and it suddenly dawned on me that I could cover it in very, very cheaply with timber off the farm and a couple of rolls of 6-foot wide netting, and it would be one big safety porch. And of course, when it came to that autumn, it wasn't long before I started letting young birds into there. At that time I had yellow-billed Amazons, I had the Cornelius ecolectus, all very, very rare birds today. I had the vinaceous Amazons, black-billed Amazons. I don't think anybody's got black-bills in England today. That putting the young birds into the big safety porch, which was about 60 foot long, one thing that happened was when I put all the young pennants in there, within a few days I noticed 2 of them had paired up. They turned out to be my best breeding pair, and the next pair that paired up were my second best breeding pair. And the last 2 pairs that I had to put together didn't breed. So that was something I've always tried to do, is to give the birds a choice of mates. I also kept at that time some of the rarer lorries, the Juvenboards and the blue streaked. But I found that they were too different to my other birds. It caused too much problems feeding them, so I only kept them a few years. Around about that time I was shown a photograph of the Ara rubrigenis, commonly called red-fronted macaws, and I fell for them immediately, and I've loved them ever since. And they were available at that time, usually around about 325 pound a pair, and I bought 17 of them. And this is a group of, I think there's 12 that you can see, and this was in the aviaries down at Cocklebury Farm. These aviaries were knocked down in 1981, and this species wasn't put onto the A list until 1983. So there was no way that these birds could be illegal at that time. In those aviaries, how I got away with it, I'll never know. It was just ordinary 19 gauge wire netting, chicken netting in other words. A little bit of nibbling went on. You can see where I've patched it up a bit with a bit of heavier gauge wire. But in that flight at that time I had Moluccans as well, and Goffin's cockatoos, and as I say, 17 red-fronted macaws. I also at that time in these aviaries, which were covered in offcuts of pine trees to give both security and warmth, there's 2 pair of palm cockatoos there with the nesting logs, and over behind my house in the orchard I also had some aviaries, and I had more palm cockatoos over there. This is the female Goliath, and on top of a 40-gallon drum, which was supposed to be for her to nest in. I had no idea in them days how they bred in the wild and what they needed. She was paired up to an Aterimus, the smaller variety. She was a Goliath. The next picture is of a Goliath male, and the next one is a black palm cockatoo. I think it had a powder down problem, otherwise it would have been grey. This one this picture depicts the biggest Goliath cockbird I ever saw, with a small Aterimus cockbird just behind him, and a Goliath female that you can just see her head in front of him. These birds weren't put on the A list until well into the 80s, and these photographs were taken by a professional photographer in Darlington, and he never took any pictures of my birds after 1980. So there's no way that these birds could have been illegal. I also had the A-list military macaws, and there's two birds depicted here. They both turned out to be females, but I bred many, many young off these two birds once I got them paired up with males. The next picture is a picture of my pair of Buffons macaws. I bought this pair in London in All Pets, and they were expensive. They cost me £425. Scarlet macaws at that time were £18 a pair. I had this pair for 8 years before they laid eggs, and the last 4 years I had them before they were stolen by customs and excise, she reared 18 chicks. That was 5, 5, 5 and 3. And in my opinion, that's the best pair of Buffons macaws that's ever been on this planet. I also had the hyacinths. That was the pair that used to get out and get at liberty. They were well known in our area. At one time they went 25 miles away for 4 days and then came home. It was all fun and games in them days. It wasn't serious like it is today. And the last picture here is another hobby I had. I was brought up on a market garden, and these were some grapes. The bunch that I'm depicting there weighed 3.5 pounds.